Edwin Frondozo on the Business Leadership Podcast every week for a unique program featuring insights and actionable items from the world's most successful business leaders. Hear firsthand the exclusive interviews and personal journeys on how today's transformational leaders made it to the top.
Hey everybody, it's Edwin, and thank you for joining me for episode 31 of the Business Leadership Podcast. On this episode, I had the opportunity to sit down with Alan Fong. He is the CTO at Fleet Complete. Alan brings over 20 years of experience building and developing innovative and high-growth technology companies. He is involved in the startup ecosystem, an advisor, and mentor to various startups, helping them focus to build for customer value and preparing them for rapid scale. We talk about the differences working in a large organization and within startups, how he hires and manages people with an edge, and the patterns he sees from moving from one company to another. I'd love to thank my media partner, IT World Canada, for the support of the podcast. Now enjoy the show. Hey, welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast, Alan.
Thank you.
First off, Alan, why don't we start off by introducing who you are? Tell the listeners a little bit personal about you, what you like to do. I know you just told me that you have a young son, so just tell us a little bit more about you, your personal life, and what you like to do when you're not building businesses.
No, thanks for that. Thanks for having me on this podcast. It's a real excitement for me. Outside of all my business stuff or things that I'm actually really passionate about, my number one priorities are obviously, my wife and my boy, 17 months. And they're my number one priority. Like, I find that as I get more involved in different startups and working here at Fleet Complete, I also know how to sort of divide that time between family and work, and the work-life balance is really important for me now.
Yeah, great. And I'm sure you and I could probably talk about tips because we're almost in the same boat. My daughter Jade, she's almost 15 months, so I'm sure we're going to be trading this for the rest of our time, our relationship. But let's just jump right in. Currently, Alan, you are just fairly new CTO at Fleet Complete. You just mentioned that. So a role that you haven't been for a long time. So with that in mind, can you share with us what you're looking to do as you came into the role, what your current mission is, and where do you see the role or the organization go with you as one of the key leadership? So
that's a great question, Edwin. I think prior to joining Fleet Complete, I met with the exec team here and some of the key folks. I really tried to understand what they're doing and what kind of space they were in. And from my research and talking with the team, Telematics is one of the hottest and fastest growing spaces in technology today. It's really folks applying technology to a place or an industry that really doesn't have it, or it's been growing over the last few years. Fleet Complete's been experiencing this growth, and as I talked with key members of the team and looked at their product, it really gave me goosebumps because it felt like that passion and energy that we can make an impact all over again.
Cool. So, I mean, it's fascinating for me personally just to hear some of today's tech leaders, how they made changes, how they had to transform themselves to get where they are today. So before you coming to Fleet Complete, I really want to know more about your past, because you were at Point Click Care for about 12 years, correct me if I'm wrong. And I understand you actually played a key role for that company growth as well. So can you pinpoint perhaps a turning point or maybe some key decisions that you had to make within your career?
Right. Yeah. I've been at Point Click Care for the last 12 years. You're right. And when I joined, it was a very startup-like environment. I was one of the first batch of people in the company. And it really was like before startups were startups, a bunch of people just getting stuff done all the time. And that sort of was the mentality that I had. I didn't talk about it before, but I spent a lot of time at IBM early on in my career, and IBM is a great company and they're continuing to evolve really well. But back then it really didn't have that startup culture. And after that, I decided that I only ever wanted to join companies that were small or growing or potentially start my own. So when I did that, I started at a company called Cybernation when we were 15 people strong. We grew it to about 120 people and exited to Computer Associates. And that was my first taste of, the excitement that could be had, in building and growing a company and being impactful with the things that I could do. After that, I joined a company called Redknee, who was very much for sort of the startup space as well. And they grew to about 300 some odd people, and they went public and they did very well as well. And then I saw Point Click Care, which brings me to your question. They were very startup-like as well at that time. And it was founded by two brothers and their mother. So you get sort of the family atmosphere right away.
Yeah.
And that's when I actually clicked that culture was an important factor in any company that you go work for. So as we grew the company, we're scaling fast. We're building awesome product. I personally had the opportunity to, be able to put on different hats.
Sure.
I ran the engineering team, the architecture team, and responsible for building specific products and initiatives that were more innovative for the company at the time. So those things really impacted the way that I drove my own decision making. I don't think there was a key turning point necessarily, but really to experience different parts of the organization so that you can sort of steer your way slowly in the right course.
Yeah, no, and it sounds like before Point Click Care, you got the experience and perhaps the reputation of being able to come into a small team, help it grow, accelerate the growth as well, and leading it within the technology scope, right? So is that something coming from the IBM background? Was that something, I mean, obviously you mentioned it's something new, being able to do that. So how did you adjust in your first experience with Cybergen?
Cybernation, yeah.
Cybergen,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you quickly learn. If you develop something that the customers don't like, you're screwed, right? So you always have to have the customer-centric focus in mind. And here at Fleet Complete is exactly the same type of scenario. We're always thinking about the customer. We're developing things that we know the workflow will work right, the UI looks slick, and the performance is right. And as we scale, and we're growing so fast, we have to scale, right? So these kind of inputs, I guess, sort of factor into the decision-making and how we build good product.
At Point Click Care, you mentioned you change hats, you had different types of roles, and I'm sure that your teams and your responsibilities changed and grown as well with them. So how did you adjust yourself to become an effective leader within that organization? Because when I look at your history, Point Click Care was probably the organization where you saw grow to a larger headcount than your past experience.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think we grew to quite a sizable organization on the product development team. As you talk about these leadership capabilities, it sort of pops into my mind the things that we've done over the term. And really, I think the number one thing is to listen. You really have to listen to everyone, not just the people. You have to listen to your product. You have to listen to the industry and the market and see where we're going. We really want to solve market problems, not just be caught up in a feature function hell. When we talk about more from a leadership perspective, I'm all about speaking the truth. Being open. You don't assault people with the truth, right? So, you want to speak the truth in a way where people can sort of benefit and grow as well. And it's two-way, right? It's never just one way. So listening is a big part of it. And as we build the team in any organization that I've been in, the other key ability that I typically try to make sure we instill in our teams is, as any organization grew, we want to make sure that we hire people that have an edge, right? Because we want to keep affecting and improving the organization. But it's not always about just hiring them with an edge, but letting them keep their edge instead of letting the organization round them out and becoming just like the guy beside us. We want to try to keep that innovation spirit, that passion, that excitement going. So we hire people that have a certain attitude. Why don't we keep them with that kind of attitude and edge?
That's pretty innovative. It's actually kind of mind-blowing in terms of the way you described having that edge, hiring these people with this edge. And what, Alan, it's funny because what thought came to my mind is that you bring in these really edgy people. And is there any disruption, or were there any experiences when you brought these people in and it sort of rocked the boat, maybe a little too edgy?
Yeah. I don't know if it's too edgy, but you absolutely will come across situations where you might get, what we call, I guess, brilliant jerks.
Yes.
Guys are brilliant and they're smart as heck. They'll get things done, but they might not work well with other people, right? But obviously those are things that we have to work with on a case by case basis. You never want a project to be successful, but the path to success was through a hurricane type of situation.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Just another question in terms of, the leadership skills that you had to take over as the organization grew is, how did you, I guess, pinpoint leaders within your teams, and how did you effectively grow them as well?
Yeah. And I guess another motto that you probably have heard before is surround yourself with good people.
Sure.
Right. And
yeah.
I've taken that to heart a lot. Like, you got to listen to your folks. You got to make sure that let folks keep their edge, but you really have to surround yourself with these good people. If you're in any room where you're the smartest guy, like, especially for me, I'm in trouble, right?
Right.
So you make sure you surround yourself with good people and be able to always ask for feedback from those folks, right? And empower them to do what they need to do, right? And it trickles down right to the team. So if you surround yourself with good people who are constantly giving you feedback and you're empowering them to do their work, they will in turn do that for their teams. Like, for example, here at Fleet Complete, we've been gathering metrics on our agile development teams. And those metrics don't come up to myself or, any of the team leads to necessarily look at and pinpoint problems and go back to the team and say, hey, what's wrong? Those metrics are given to the teams themselves so that they can look and self-improve as a team.
Real interesting. I know we talked about it quickly. Fleet Complete. You just came on recently. So what were the challenges personally for you taking over a key leadership role, and especially a technology-based company? You're taking on the chief technology position. So how has the transition been?
Yeah, it's been a lot smoother than I expected. I came from a VP of technology role at Point Click here into a CTO role at Fleet Complete. But I really have to give kudos to the exec team here, Tony and our HR folks, Larry, and the entire team. They've been really, really supportive of me taking on this role. The other sort of cool part of it is this company's growing so fast that they never had a CTO role before.
Okay.
So I'm not filling somebody's shoes. It's really developing this role and sort of incorporating all the things and experiences that I've been through into this new development team that we're building here.
Oh, that's an interesting opportunity. So you're almost building that role to what you've probably imagined what a CTO role should be.
Yeah.
So it's an open slate. Is there some things that were sort of personal or something that you've never seen that you're implementing in terms of this role and seeing early successes on it?
Yeah. So part of what I saw here when I first came in was really I wouldn't call them necessarily problems. They're really challenges, and I say they're challenges because I've seen them before.
Right.
As we were growing these past 3 companies that I was with, it's all the same problems. That gives you goosebumps, right? So you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You know exactly how we can solve these problems. The context might be different. Every company has a different context, but it's the same type of problems that you have to solve.
Yeah.
For example, when we talk about the company our team is growing fast here, and as any company grows fast, they start to develop sort of process-driven silos. You might have like a development team and a QA team and a product team. One of the first things we did was sort of merge all those guys. So they're all product-driven delivery. So you'll have 4 dev, 2 QA, and a product person, and they're one team, and they're focused on delivering their product for a successful product delivery.
Okay. So that's something that pretty early successes and early transitions that you've brought onto it. And how did the team adjust to those changes?
Yeah, I think a lot of times the teams are saying, hey, that's how we should have been doing it in the first place, right? But you don't realize those things until you get to a certain scale. And as we grow, we'll come across more of those challenges.
Yeah, no, for sure. You mentioned it real quickly just a couple of minutes ago that being the smartest in the room or surrounding yourself with a great team. So I'm wondering, Alan, who are your leadership influences and mentors?
Yeah, I don't have any necessarily any public or celebrity mentors.
Sure.
Like a lot of people, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs and those guys. I admire those people for sure. But I'm more of a tactical and local guy. So
of course,
it might be my current boss, like Tony, the CEO of Fleet Complete. He's a great guy. He has incredible insight into the industry, and the way that he thinks about problems and how to solve them is incredible. But I always look for someone that's local, that's accessible for me, and that I can always bounce ideas off of, right? So, in the past at Point Click Care, the 2 brothers and a mother, that it wasn't any one of them that was an individual mentor for me, but I looked at all 3 of them as sort of a package deal. You got Mike, who's the visionary, Dave, who's like the amazing like technology guy, and then the mom who sort of kept the balance between them.
That's awesome.
And when you look at that, you're like, wow, that's how, like, if I were to run a company, I'd like to run it like a family. So I found that at Point Click here. I found that here at Fleet Complete. It's a very family-oriented culture. We care about our people.
Yeah.
And that's sort of sort of some of the mentorship, I guess, criteria I look at when I search these people out. If I think back to even the past when I was at Cybermation, there's folks there, that I really looked up to, a guy named Peter Hunt. He was, been through it all. He's done his IBM stint and he's ran divisions at IBM. He's worked with independent companies that he's grown pretty large. And I bounce ideas off people like that when I was there. So as I move along through my career, I sort of look, to my left and to my right and see who I can look up to and ask for advice once in a while.
Well, that's great that you had the, you're put into a position that these people are readily available for you.
Right.
Do you go to events where you're meeting now, I guess, other CTOs and getting into these mastermind groups or where these peers or colleagues are out there as well now?
Yeah, absolutely. Being new to the CTO role, I'm always looking to meet with like-minded people. There's actually a meetup group that's started up by a CTO that I know, Bowden, and it's on Meetup. It's called the Toronto CTO group, but they have topics every week that they talk about, that they bring up, and we all go in and chit chat and see what's up.
I really want to dig a bit deeper in terms of, now that you're in this large organization, what are you looking for when you're looking at your team or when you need new leaders? Like, is there a specific type of quality that you want?
Yeah. I think as organizations get larger, another personal motto of mine is I'll take passion over experience any day.
Okay.
Guys who are willing to get the job done and really care about the craftsmanship, right? So it's not a hacker per se, but guys who care about building good product as if you're building your own house, right? Making decisions on purchases as if, they're getting their first mortgage or something like that, right?
Right.
So they really care about what they're doing. They're passionate about it, and they know that it's not just something that they come in, 9 to 5 and check out.
And just get things done and leave.
Right.
Are you always constantly looking for these type of people, or do you just recognize it when you see it?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, right? Some folks you have to dig into and talk a little bit. I don't believe in having 10 interviews before you hire somebody, because a lot of times when you meet somebody and just talk to them, you sort of get a sense and a good feel. And sometimes it just needs a little bit more digging into it to sort of get those examples from them in their past experience to figure that out.
A lot of business leaders, tech leaders, they're always self-learning. They're going to courses, but a lot of them are reading. So, Alan, I want to know, what's on your night table today?
Oh, that's a terrible question to ask me. I read books, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. Yours is one of them.
Sure.
And that's where I do most of my learning. I have a commute now that, I turn on a podcast and listen to, but I'm one of those guys where, I watch a movie and I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but I just remember quotes. So when I read book or listen to a podcast, I jot down notes, and that's.
So it sounds like you're looking for some key takeaways, whatever.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're looking for specific takeaways to get your time the most efficient way. What was the most recent quote that you remembered or you wrote down?
Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead.
Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead.
Yeah, that's actually from a book that I was reading. It's called The Coaching Habit. I can't remember the author, sorry, but it was fairly insightful for me.
No, I love it. No, that's perfect. I like that. So, fun question. I know you've gone through a number of organizations. You've grown within a number of them as well. So if I were to ask any of your team members, your colleagues, some of your peers, what the best leadership quality you have, what do you think they would say?
I always say I'm a good listener, and I'm here for anybody who wants to talk about whatever problems we have from, a work perspective, sometimes from a life perspective too. But I was trying to change that a little bit and to make me a better listener and really ask the right questions. People always ask you, hey, what's up or what's on your mind? And you hear a first set of answers and responses.
Yeah.
But then I learned, okay, there's this concept called the awe question. So, and what else? AWE. And what else? And you just keep digging in. Then you sort of get to the root of the concern or the problem or the issue. And that's how we really start to solve problems.
Well, what's next? I know this is your new role, Alan, but where do you see yourself, maybe not in the next 5 years, in the next year within this role? Where do you see it growing, or where do you hope for it to grow?
Well, we're going to do big things here at Fleet Complete. We're in the mobile IoT technology space, and that's like a pretty hot space right now. And we're primed and pumped and ready to go with a lot of things that we're doing. We're building out new platforms to take advantage of the innovative technologies that are coming down the pipe. And our customers are loving it. And we're building things that our customers are asking for. And we're building things that we think we know that they'll want from an innovation perspective.
That's awesome.
So I just want to continue building on that. Just to also keep things even more exciting for me. I'm an advisor at Mars. So I work with different startups in the healthcare space, and in, more of the high tech space as well, to do different things. And wherever I can give back or provide some advice, I love to do that.
Oh, cool. So tell me a bit more of the advising part, at Mars. I know Mars is a big incubator here in Toronto. So how did you get involved in that?
It was more just out of my own interest. Like I love the startup world so much. Part of the reason I joined Fleet Complete, we're not a startup now, but it has that entrepreneurial spirit, obviously. And, so I wanted to sort of maintain that and sort of keep in touch with that ecosystem as well. And that's why I joined, folks like Mars, because of my background. They gladly, I guess, I was glad that they accepted me into their organization. And we meet once in a while as a advisory group to talk about different companies or events or things that are happening. But they also pair you up with different startup companies to see if you can help with them. And I've been doing a bunch of that. So it keeps me excited from that space.
Oh, no, for sure. Like, do you, outside of just the advisory services, do you really see an opportunity that you maybe want to roll your sleeves up and really, because you really want to help, or is it's really arm's length at this point?
Yeah, I'm completely so passionate about what we're doing here at Fleet Complete. That's all I'm doing. Sometimes I think about, I don't have time to talk to you, but I understand that if I can add value for a startup company, 100%. I really want to do that. So I make time to do that, and that's really what it is right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Everyone's definitely the people that get you as an advisor are benefiting from a lot of experience in terms of the technology space, because I can imagine these startups are all in the tech space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's they have an incredible bunch of companies there that they work with.
That's great. So having a blast, Alan. I mean, you and I know we were talking about this earlier. We probably could talk forever, but before we end, I'd love to get some of your final thoughts, observations, any actionable recommendations that you can share for any technology leaders that are looking to grow their business or even their startup at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it applies to all levels, large organizations, startups, and small business, small medium businesses. It's really listen to your customer. Don't really get caught up in feature function health. Solve market problems. Like, what's the market need from my solution? And if your solution doesn't fit that market, pivot.
To close, Alan, please tell us where we can find more information about you, Fleet Complete, and maybe any other startups or organizations that you're advising or you're getting out to.
Sure. Yeah. Find out more about Fleet Complete. It's fleetcomplete.com in North America, and with the different extensions in Europe and Australia and all around the world. My personal Twitter handle is CyBAlan, CYBALAN. And the startups that I work with, you'll hear about them very soon. A lot of them have got funding rounds in place, and some are more pre-revenue startups, but you'll hear about them soon. Oh,
that's so exciting, man. I appreciate your time, Alan. Well, thank you for joining us on the Business Leadership Podcast.
Thank you very much, Edwin.
That's it, folks. Thank you for listening to episode 31 of the Business Leadership Podcast. I really love speaking with technology leaders just to see how they are able to grow companies by not only understanding the technology, but also working with people. To learn more about Alan, Fleet Complete, and anything you heard, visit the website at thebusinessleadership.com/031. And again, thank you for all the messages. I really appreciate the comments, the questions, and also the suggestions. So as always, feel free to contact me directly via email to edwin@thebusinessleadership.com. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you again, and until next time, Edwin signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Business Leadership Podcast at thebusinessleadership.com.